Hi, I may not easily catch your eye, but I embody a vision and in addition, ambition. I turn into a shadow in light of the bright future I point you to. But in this journey, I want you to hold me to hold me in high esteem, because if you do, we will be the highest team. I have been part of days of great honor and marvel, seen from great heights on journeys hardly traveled. You ceremoniously hoist me high, but sadly, you also heist me dry. Exalted but assaulted, insulted by the insolent. I am the flag. I am also the rule of law. Your knees have made a home on my wings. I can't fly.
We the people.
We the people of Kenya.
Recognizing the aspirations of
all Kenyans, of our government,
based on the essential values of human rights,
equality,
freedom,
democracy, social justice,
and the rule of law,
adopt, enact, and give this constitution to ourselves
and to our future generation.
In its simplest form, the rule of law means that no one is above the law. It is the foundation for the development of peaceful, equitable, and prosperous societies. This is according to LexisNexis Legal and Professional, a global provider of legal, regulatory, and business information and analytics, which adds that for the rule of law to be effective, there must be quality under the law, transparency of law, an independent judiciary, and access to legal remedy. The excitement at Uhuru Park was tangible, tear-jerking. The audience was bursting with conviction-laden hope for a new start, a tomorrow free of the shackles that have cuffed themselves on the nation's wrists. However, even as the new law was being raised, its spirit of rule of law was being trampled underfoot.
Omar Bashir, a man wanted by the ICC, had been invited to witness the promulgation. And Omar Bashir had a better chair reserved for him than Kofi Annan. It said everything about who we were and how we intended to proceed.
The International Criminal Court accused Omar al-Bashir, the then president of Sudan, of war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide in Sudan's Darfur area. Kenya is a signed-up member of the ICC and would have been expected to have him arrested, but instead, he was granted a special seat at the dais. In 2013, President Mwai Kibaki disobeyed court orders requiring him to appoint and gazette members of the National Land Commission.
This overt contempt of the court and its constitutional mandate takes impunity to a new level. If the president, who has taken an oath to uphold, to defend, and to protect the Constitution, will not comply with the clear directive of the court, then the very essence of our Constitution is in jeopardy. The rule of law then stands in danger of being jettisoned.
2013 was the year that the Kibaki era was done, but the divisive and polarized politics were not dusted.
The candidate who has been duly elected the President of the Republic of Kenya is Uhuru Kenyatta.
The echoes of the 2007-2008 violence were ringing loud enough for many to fear a repeat. So, the Constitution was called in to put out the fires and point the nation to a secure future. Here, the rule of law was bolted into another exam room, the Supreme Courtroom.
I advise my friend Raila, because I'm again an officer of the High Court. If the Supreme Court found against us, we can say we may not agree with that ruling, but we are bound as Kenyans by the decision.
It is the decision of the court that the said elections were indeed conducted in compliance with the Constitution and the law. The third and fourth respondents were validly elected.
Although we may not agree with some of its findings, and despite all the anomalies we have pointed out, our belief in constitutionalism remains supreme.
That the Code Coalition yielded to the decision was a welcome gesture and buttressed the backbone of the rule of law.
Kenya. Aya, tumshangilie kwa makofi.
Our court is now in session.
In October 2014, President Uhuru Kenyatta had a date with the International Criminal Court where he and his deputy William Ruto were facing charges of crimes against humanity. That he was a sitting president facing such charges had raised concerns, and President Kenyatta chose to rise to the occasion.
I chose not to put the sovereignty of more than 40 million Kenyans on trial, since their democratic will should never be subject to another jurisdiction.
He then invoked Article 147(3) of the Constitution, which points out that, subject to Article 134, when the president is absent or is temporarily incapacitated, and during any other period that the president decides, the deputy president shall act as the president.
I will shortly issue the legal notice necessary to appoint Honorable William Ruto, the deputy president, as acting president while I attend the status conference at The Hague in the Netherlands.
At this time, having signed the said document, Kenyatta was not allowed to exercise the powers of the president. This move was seen as one that gave impetus to the principle of the rule of law being sacrosanct. 2017, Kenya heads back to the ballot. It is, again, a race between Kenyatta and Odinga. It is yet again a disputed and divisive result.
I wish to declare Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta as President-elect and Honorable William Ruto as the Deputy President-elect.
The National Super Alliance was not going to, in their words, let their victory be stolen again. They were back to the country's top court. The rule of law was again about to be tested. The stakes were high, but so were the mistakes, according to the Supreme Court.
The declaration is invalid, null, and void.
We respect it. We don't agree with it.
Who would have thought that in Kenya, an election, or in Africa, would be nullified? By the time a presidential election was nullified in 2017, we had joined, I think, about 4 other countries in the world.
They made a decision which was not a unanimous decision, it was a majority decision. They assigned reason to the position at which they arrived, and it ought to be respected.
From where I sit was a politically unwise decision, because then you're declaring war on a government. It is not a war you're going to be able to finish.
There were irregularities that were demonstrated, and these are in elections globally, but they were of such minor, such pedantic, that they didn't affect the outcome.
We said, fine, you may have gotten that, but the means to the end is as important as the end itself.
As a Supreme Court, they cannot overturn the will of the people. Lakini Maraga thinks he can overturn the will of the people. We shall show you in 60 days that the will of the people cannot be overturned by 1 or 2 individuals. Na tutakutana huko. Tutarudi. Na tukishamaliza tutarevisit hii mambo yenu.
NASA refused to participate in the repeat poll, saying that IEBC had no intention to right the wrongs that led to the nullification of the election.
So help me God.
So help me God.
President Uhuru Kenyatta won the repeat poll, and this was another statement of victory for the rule of law. But before the aura of triumph could settle, the discontent voices were rising and raising the stakes higher than the religious book in hand. Raila Odinga was at Uhuru Park, where he took an oath.
Of the high calling, assume the office of the People's President of the Republic of Kenya.
The Constitution in Article 2, Sub-Article 2 states that no person may claim or exercise state authority except as authorized under this Constitution.
That sort of process is high treason. It is high treason in respect of the person so involved and any other person facilitating that process. What is the punishment for high treason? It is death.
I have not committed any treason. What I have said is that Uhuru Kenyatta does not have legitimacy. What we did is based on Constitution. The people of Kenya have got the sovereignty. They can exercise it directly or donate it to their elected representatives.
I took a lot of heat at the time for that pronouncement. I stand by it today. I am sure that historians will judge that I was right on that point. It is a slippery path, which if you went down, the country may never come back.
The matter has never made it to court and appears to have been caught up and buried in the Kenyatta-Odinga handshake of March 9, 2018. While Odinga was allowed to walk, and more so by the president's side, it was not so for some of his allies who walked the dangerous path with him.
I'm not boarding, I don't have a passport. I'm not boarding.
United can never be defeated. A people united.
Activist, lawyer and self-claimed general of the National Resistance Movement, Miguna, who administered the oath in Odinga's mock swearing ceremony, was deported on claims that he was not a citizen of Kenya.
Mr. Miguna wanted, he would actually do it from Ottawa or Toronto, wherever he is, and he would get it. It's a simple, straightforward process. We took these documents to him to the airport. He tore them. We did all we could in that particular case to fulfill the requirements of the law.
After many court orders and attempts to bring back Miguna to Kenya, the government denied him entry with shows of drama in tow.
I'm not boarding, I don't have a passport. I'm not boarding.
JKIA was described as a cocktail of drama, breaches of law and police excesses. Over 300 officers were deployed to contain the situation, and even lawyers and journalists took some hits.
The Miguna one is particularly embarrassing. How a government can tell its own born citizen that they are not citizens. A person who has worked in government, who ran in the last elections, whether you like him or not, he's a Kenyan.
The consequences of the Miguna case are very frightening. That you can get validation of your rights in the court of law, and they are not realized, okay? People basically say, utadu.
The executive was acting outside the law. So the actions of the executive in that instance were illegal action.
When it comes to the law, each of the arms of government, that is the three of them, has a specific and distinct role to play. First, we have the legislature, comprising of the Senate and the National Assembly, each led by a speaker. The role here of these two houses is to make the laws. Then we head on to the halls of justice, and that is the judiciary, which is led by the Chief Justice, who is also the President of the Supreme Court. The role here is to interpret the laws. Then we head on to the House on the Hill. We go to the executive, led by the President, and the role here is to enforce the laws.
So if you had a functional parliament, they will bring a motion to say, no, this member of the executive, if it is Matiang'i, we call him out. If it is President Uhuru, we call him out. That's why in mature democracies, a president who disobeys the constitution faces certain sanctions, for example, impeachment.
The government has no respect for the rule of law whatsoever. The president particularly has no respect for the rule of law.
If the government cannot obey the courts, cannot obey the law, it has no moral authority to require citizens to obey. And that creates anarchy.
I have no problem with the president as a person. I have a problem with the exercise of the powers.
And the impunity that has been witnessed also speaks to the runaway corruption in the country, which, at the heart of it, is about subverting the rule of law.
When you don't obey court orders, particularly as government officials, when the government officials go throwing the court orders as pieces of paper, what are you telling the people? Are you telling the people that we have two sets of laws? One for the wananchi and the other one for government officials?
Because I had just come out of the constitution making process. And we went around the country, we went to all the villages, we saw the poverty levels, levels of deprivation. All right? These huge cars, really. Huh? But you enter a government and that is what you get. And then they tint them. Eh? So you sit inside, you never get to see your surroundings. You don't see these people. That's government for you.
Corruption stories during the 10-year stay of the Constitution have been many. The rule of law has been sacrificed at the altars of anything but nationhood. The fight has been held and also criticized.
It's been said, of course, that the judiciary is the weak link and that sometimes it takes too long for them to act. But I think that accusation also is not wholly meritorious. There are certain things that must be taken into account. There are contesting parties, there are lawyers representing accused persons who themselves want to protect their liberty.
Corruption in Kenya is politicized. Corruption in Kenya is driven by the office of the president. It's an executive process, yes. All these other things you see, I mean, if you think there's a genuine fight to fight corruption, you are delusional. You must have a problem.
Describing it is not endemic. This is not a basket society. I mean, honestly speaking, this is a great country. I don't think it's fair to paint, a bleak picture and it's as though there is no future for this country. It's not true. No.
Another way that some find themselves out of trouble when they have broken the law is they are on the right side of power.
There are people who can kill you in this country and there's no consequences. There are many murder cases in this country that have not been investigated. When you have such a long trend, then you know that there are huge gaps in the rule of law.
People are still stealing, looting, abusing public resources, and they are not being held to account.
The judiciary, which is expected to be the headquarters of justice, is not spotless.
Some of our judicial officers, very few of them, have not lived up to their oath of office. And unfortunately, they have been, you see the way they are handling some cases and you wonder.
I want to inform you that the Ministry of Health has confirmed the first coronavirus case in Kenya.
When the COVID-19 pandemic hit the country, measures were taken, and with them came abuses to human rights, state-sanctioned abuses.
Circumstances, by the way, the police did an excellent job. Regardless of what, I've seen the detractors or critics of the police raising so many issues, including human rights organizations.
But people who are in power or close to it appear to have the power to break the very laws they install, enforce, and threaten against breaking.
The Inspector General of Police shall ensure that his officers spare no muheshimiwa, no individual, irregardless of social status or rank, who is either out after curfew without being an essential worker, or who flaunts the health protocols that have been set out. The rules are for all of us, and rank or status does not exempt anyone from them.
Nyinyi mumesikia vile serikali imesema kuhusu mkutano ya watu. Tumesikia watu ni 15. Lakini nimejaribu kuhesabu wao watu, sijui inahesabiwa namna gani ndio wafike 15. Tafadhali, kila mmoja wetu, kama unaweza kupata mask ufae, uoshe mikono, tuweke usafi, tuweke social distance. Wewe mwenyewe ndio utapata matatizo ukikosa kufuata maagizo ya Wizara ya Afya.
I think you will find that in terms of care, in terms of using masks, in terms of social distancing, women are just being that much more careful. And I know there might be some macho-ness, kuwa mungwana, kuwa mtu mkali, uonyeshe una nguvu, wewe huwezi kuvaa mask. Mimi ni fellow. Wewe ni fellow, mkali sana. If it was in the Wild West, you'd be slinging guns. You will die. Utakufa. Na hiyo ufelo yako. Hiyo ufelo hakuna pahali itakupeleka jameni.
We have failed. On that one we failed. As politicians, me included. We made a big mistake to say that you're setting up rules and you don't live by example. So the whole issue of what was happening in Western Kenya, for instance, and I spoke to this issue myself. I remember speaking and saying, either allow all or deny all. You cannot have two sets of rules.
How various leaders have carried themselves out in light of the COVID-19 pandemic has led many to believe that there are many peas in a pod, primarily pursuing political progression, pushing polarizing perspectives plus possibly profits and plunder, at the possible risk of pain placed upon the people in the pandemic.
Some people being given all the protection to conduct these gatherings by the police and so forth, and others having tear gas lobbed into their homes, not on the road, but into their homes. That you are breaching COVID rules, but the tear gas is coming into your home. And on this side, they are protecting guys breaching COVID rules in abandon.
However, police brutality and biased application of the law was not the second worst thing to the invisible enemy. There was corruption. Deals that have dealt the country's moral fabric a blow. The COVID-19 millionaires have been exposed for flouting procurement rules and thereby stealing public resources.
A company that is probably registered in February, you cannot have enough financial muscle, or you cannot show 3-year statement, which is required in KEMSA.
People in power have actually stolen COVID money. Where are you taking the money in this COVID where you could be dead tomorrow?
However, given the compelling public interest on the matter, the relevant agencies should expedite their ongoing investigations and conclude the same within 21 days.
Concerns have been raised that the ripple effects of the open disregard of the law right from the top poses a huge risk for tomorrow and the years to come.
There's something which is now coming in among our youth, which was not there in those days. The love for money, where people do things not out of principle. And you can see this even in our representatives, both at the county level and at the national level, in Parliament. That members of Parliament are asking for money, to be paid money to do something. That's never happened in our days. People came out to do something in public interest.
Probably it is partly our fault because we display opulence, we worship money, we worship property. Where it has come from doesn't matter. So the young people are looking at us, we are not doing things any differently.
The issue of impunity that you see everywhere is as a result of the way the government behaves.
The executive needs to also see that the disobedience with court orders is not just about an affront to the judiciary, because the judiciary has done its bit. Once it's issued its orders, the judiciary has finished with what it needs to do. But the breakdown of the rule of law is a problem for the executive eventually. Because what we'll have is, people, and you notice that, so that there is a lot more disregard for the rule of law generally in the country. Because people see what doesn't matter. If the government does not obey orders, why should anyone?
People basically say utadu.
Sheria ya nchi hii tunaona kuna kasoro kidogo. Kwa sababu kuna sheria ya matajiri na pia kuna sheria ya maskini. Kwa sababu kwa Kenya tunaona maskini, kwa mfano mtu asiyekuwa na kitu akiiba kuku, sheria inamfuata kabisa na anafunguliwa mashtaka na anafungwa.
How do you expect a simple Kenyan kufuata sheria? Kwa sababu mimi kunishika, labda nikwambie mimi niko kwa mrengo wa Ruto, mwingine akishikwa atasema ni yako kwa mrengo wa Uhuru. That is the country we are in. So, and Kenyans and the same leaders have left it continue because they don't know that thing is dividing this country.
Our leaders do away with the rule of the law because they are able to manipulate the system for their good.
Unapata yeye anavunja, na akivunja kwa sababu anajiona yuko juu ya sheria. Akishikwa tunaambiwa tu alishikwa akapelekwa mahali fulani, kidogo unasikia ako tu free huku nje.
Nikiona leader wangu afuati sheria, hata mimi kweli itanisumbua. Hata mimi kuna vile kwa njia moja au lingine kuna vile siwezi fuata sheria.
When laws are set, the first 2-3 weeks we are very good people and we tend to follow the law. And 3 weeks later we always have ways to adjust and come up with our own directives.
Kama mimi ni driver, napata mtu badala upepe watu 8 ama 9, napata watu ni 9. Abiria mwingine anakuja tu anaingia wanakaa 10.
As much we would wish to follow the constitution, as much we would wish to celebrate the 10th year of our constitution, hatufai. Juu wale viongozi wetu, they are the first law breakers.
Ndio kitu ipite ama ufanywe jambo fulani, hata kama hata kwambia unamuhonga, inabindi ile lugha anatumia inabidi umpe kitu ndio upite mahali fulani.
I had to part with something for me to be rendered the service in a public office. It's not the first time, but I've done it severally. Not against my will, but That's the way the system goes.
Majority of us do not like the situation inside a police station. So if there's any language you can talk about, yeah, with the police and get away with it, that one will be a run for your safety.
Of late, the rule of law favors the elites. The elites who have finances to protect themselves for the mistakes and crimes that they have committed. And our own president is just watching this as the rule of law is being buried deeper and deeper.
I am a coffee! With President Kenyatta having been at the helm of the country for 7 of the 10 years of the Constitution, some rank his tenure lower than that of his predecessor.
Kibaki was, to be fair to him, wholeheartedly embraced the Constitution and tried to implement it. Uhuru, to be fair to him, has wholeheartedly rejected the Constitution and tries to operate outside the Constitution.
Dan Mwangi, NTV, for we, the people.